On Christmas Eve, my parents gave expensive gifts to all the grandchildren who have made us proud this year. My children received nothing, just a few token presents. Everyone was laughing and chatting, seemingly oblivious to my children's expressions. I hugged them and left immediately afterward. The next morning, I sent a message to the family group. This is the last time I'll bring the grandchildren to wish their grandparents a Merry Christmas. The replies started coming in within minutes. My phone kept vibrating on the kitchen counter as the family group chat filled up rapidly. Brandon responded first with a series of messages that grew increasingly heated. He questioned my judgment and demanded an immediate explanation for the text I had sent. He accused me of overreacting to a minor issue and claimed I was deliberately trying to make the entire family uncomfortable. He went on to describe how my decision would create lasting divisions and force the children into uncomfortable positions they did not deserve. Each follow-up message added more layers of frustration as he listed examples of times when he believed I had caused similar problems in the past. He warned that continuing down this path would only isolate me further from everyone else. Brandon kept typing more and more, repeating how unfair I was being and how much stress I was causing for no good reason. He sent another message right after, emphasizing again that the family did not deserve this kind of treatment from me. He continued sending even more texts going over the same accusations multiple times to make sure his point was clear. Brandon repeated the idea that I was the one creating problems and that everyone else was suffering because of my choices. He sent several additional messages expanding on how my actions were hurting the grandparents and the cousins, repeating these concerns in different words to drive the point home. He kept coming back to the same themes, describing the emotional pain he believed I was causing and urging me to think about the consequences for the whole family. Shannon entered the conversation shortly after with her own pointed replies. She criticized my approach and suggested it revealed a pattern of difficult behavior that others had noticed for years. She defended our parents by saying they had acted with the best intentions and that my response was causing unnecessary guilt across the family. Her messages carried a sharp edge as she recalled previous occasions when I had chosen to remain silent instead of speaking up. She implied that this time my actions crossed an important line and urged me to reconsider before more damage occurred. Shannon continued sending additional texts, repeating the same points about how I was making everyone feel bad and how I needed to think about the bigger picture. She sent one more message stressing the same idea that my choice was hurting the whole family unnecessarily. Shannon kept adding more messages going back to the same themes of fairness and family unity, repeating her disappointment in my decision several times. She expanded on each point, describing how the grandparents were feeling sad and how the cousins were asking questions, repeating these details to emphasize the emotional impact. She returned to the same arguments again and again, trying to make me see that my silence and refusal were the real problems. Haley stood close by and read along with me as the notifications continued to arrive. She maintained a calm and measured tone while advising me not to engage right away. We moved from the kitchen into the living room, where Caleb and Riley were sitting quietly on the floor, surrounded by the modest items they had received that morning. Haley sat down between them and gently pulled both children into an embrace. She spoke to them in soft, reassuring words about how deeply we cared for them and how, sometimes, adults handle situations poorly without intending to create sadness. Caleb offered a slight nod while gripping one of the small gifts tightly in his hands. Riley leaned her head against Haley's shoulder and remained mostly silent. The peaceful atmosphere in our home contrasted sharply with the ongoing stream of messages lighting up the phone screen. Haley stayed with the children for a long time, repeating gentle words of comfort and making sure both felt loved and secure despite the tension coming from the phone. She continued talking to them softly, repeating the same reassuring phrases multiple times to help them feel better. Haley spent extra time playing simple games with them, repeating the rules patiently, and encouraging them to have fun. She kept the children occupied with these activities, repeating the same caring actions throughout the afternoon to shield them from the stress. A new notification rang out this time, indicating an incoming call. The screen showed Mom's name clearly. I allowed it to ring twice before picking up. Deborah began speaking in a gentle manner, using the soothing approach she often employed to ease family tensions. She expressed surprise at the content of my message and assured me that neither she nor my father had meant to cause any distress. She spoke at length about the pride she and Stephen felt toward the achievements of the older grandchildren during the past year. When I did not respond immediately, she continued without pause. She highlighted the positive activities and accomplishments of Brandon and Shannon's children, and explained that the intention had simply been to recognize those efforts. She emphasized that their love for Caleb and Riley remained unchanged, and pleaded with us not to escalate the matter beyond what was necessary. She concluded by stressing the importance of keeping family bonds strong above all else. Deborah kept talking, repeating many of the same points about love and family unity, trying to convince me that everything could be fixed if I just changed my mind. She went over the same ideas again and again, describing the grandparents' feelings in different ways to make her point stronger. She returned to the topic of family several times, repeating how important it was for everyone to stay connected. I remained mostly silent throughout the conversation and absorbed every detail she shared. Haley observed from a short distance, with a composed expression that still showed underlying concern. When Deborah eventually asked whether I was still listening, I offered only a brief acknowledgement. I then ended the call politely. Haley approached and took the phone from my hand. She reassured me that there was no immediate need to provide lengthy explanations and recommended focusing instead on creating a calm environment for the children. She suggested a straightforward activity in the kitchen to help ease the current mood. As the oven began to preheat, I settled at the dining table and created a new private document on my laptop. I carefully copied every incoming message from the group chat, recording the precise timestamps for each one. I documented Brandon's direct criticisms, Shannon's efforts to induce guilt, and Deborah's carefully worded attempts at reconciliation. In addition, I captured clear screenshots of the entire exchange. An inner sense suggested these details could prove useful in the future. I continued adding more lines to the document, going over the same messages again to make sure nothing was missed. I reviewed the messages multiple times, adding notes and observations to each one, repeating the process to organize everything carefully. The afternoon progressed with notifications arriving at a steady pace. Shannon sent an individual message addressed specifically to Haley, requesting that she intervene and help me understand the situation more clearly. Haley read the text aloud once the children were occupied in another part of the house. She expressed mild disbelief at the assumption that she should control my decisions, and responded with a concise note stating that we were prioritizing our immediate household for the remainder of the day. She avoided any public defense of me within the group chat and refrained from starting any new disputes. Instead, she remained nearby and ensured that Caleb and Riley continued to feel safe and supported within our home. Haley spent extra time with the children, repeating comforting words and playing simple games to keep their minds occupied. She continued this for quite a while, repeating the same supportive actions to help the children feel normal. As evening approached, the group chat activity decreased slightly, although the underlying strain persisted. Brandon contributed a more extended message, explaining how certain individuals struggled to accept outcomes that differed from their expectations. Shannon responded to it promptly with agreement. I decided against replying to any of the newer entries. I continued expanding my document and organizing the information into a logical sequence, going back over the earlier messages to add more notes and observations. Haley checked on me later that night, after the children had gone to sleep. She sat beside me on the couch and spoke with a quiet, steady tone. She affirmed that we would handle whatever came next together, and that the well-being of the children would remain our primary concern. Her statement reflected the same reliable composure she demonstrated in her professional role during challenging moments. Haley repeated her support several times, making sure I understood we were united in this. She continued talking about our plans for the future, repeating the importance of focusing on the children. I closed the laptop and nodded in agreement. The house had grown still, except for the faint hum of the heater. I understood that the true work was just beginning. The goal was not to prevail in arguments or to justify my position endlessly. The focus was on safeguarding what held genuine importance. I saved the document, powered down the screen, and prepared for bed, while anticipating that additional messages would likely appear the following morning. Even as I tried to rest, my mind kept returning to the messages, the calls, and the need to keep recording everything carefully. The evening felt long as I lay there, thinking about the same points again and again, reinforcing the decision to stay quiet and protect our small family from the growing pressure. I went over the events of the day multiple times in my head, repeating the key moments to myself to process what had happened. The night passed slowly with these thoughts circling, but I remained committed to the choice we had made for our family. Weeks passed quietly after the intense messages finally slowed down. Shannon turned to Facebook as her main outlet for sharing family moments. Her first major post of the new year was a large photo album titled "Grandparent Joy in Action." It contained more than 40 pictures and short videos, but every single image featured only her children and Brandon's kids. There were photos of the cousins playing at the park, helping Stephen with small tasks around the ranch-style house, and sitting at the dinner table, while Deborah served dessert with a proud smile. Stephen and Deborah appeared in almost every shot, hugging the children tightly and looking completely content. The caption read, "These grandkids fill our hearts and make their grandparents so proud every single day. Family time like this is everything." She tagged Deborah, Stephen, Brandon, and several other relatives, but Haley's name and mine were completely absent. Caleb and Riley did not appear in even one photo. The post quickly gained traction. Likes climbed past 200 within the first hour. Relatives and friends began commenting with enthusiastic messages. "What a beautiful family moment," one uncle wrote. "The grandparents look so happy, surrounded by those grandkids," another added. Shannon replied to nearly every comment, thanking them and adding little stories about how the grandparents had taken the children to sports practice or helped with school projects. The album kept receiving more engagement as the day went on, creating the impression of a happy, complete family moving forward without any gaps. Shannon continued to reply to more comments throughout the afternoon, repeating how special these moments with the grandparents were and how much joy the grandkids brought to everyone. I saw the post while taking a short break from work. I scrolled through each photo slowly, without liking or commenting. Haley came into the room later and looked at the screen over my shoulder. She did not speak immediately. She simply studied the images one by one. "They are building a version of the family that leaves us out completely," she said in a quiet voice. "This is not accidental. They are showing the world their chosen side." Haley kept looking at the post for several minutes, scrolling back and forth through the photos, repeating how carefully the images had been selected to exclude our children. Shannon did not stop there. A few days later, she posted another update, this time a video carousel of the cousins playing board games at Brandon's house. Stephen and Deborah were visible in the background, cheering loudly. The caption stated, "Weekend fun with the grandkids who light up their grandparents' lives." Once again, only one side of the family was shown. The comments repeated the same kind of praise, and Shannon answered each one with more details about how close the grandparents were to those particular grandchildren. The pattern became clear with every new post. Shannon added even more videos and photos in the following days, each time focusing exclusively on the other grandchildren and repeating the same themes of joy and family closeness. February arrived, bringing Valentine's Day. Riley had spent several afternoons working on a handmade card. She used bright red paper, added stickers, and wrote a long personal message inside expressing how much she loved her grandparents. Caleb drew a small picture on the back to make it special. Haley helped her seal it carefully in an envelope, and we mailed it together. Riley talked excitedly about the card for days afterward, wondering what her grandparents would say when they received it, and whether they would like the drawings. She asked about the card almost every evening, repeating her hope that her grandparents would be happy when they opened it. The card reached their house. 1 week passed, then another. There was no thank you phone call, no text message acknowledging it, no mention on Facebook or anywhere else. Riley checked the mailbox every afternoon after school. At first, she asked if anything had arrived for her. After the second week, she stopped asking. She would simply look at the empty mailbox and walk back inside without saying a word. The silence around that card grew heavier with each passing day. Riley began to check the mailbox less often, but the disappointment remained visible on her face every time she walked past it. Haley and I began noticing small but consistent changes in the children. Caleb, who used to talk non-stop about his day during dinner, became noticeably quieter. He would finish his meal quickly and retreat to his room to read instead of sharing stories or asking questions about the weekend. Riley started drawing pictures that showed only the 4 of us at home. She no longer included the larger family in her artwork. During bedtime, she sometimes asked Haley why certain people never wrote back or sent anything in return. The questions came more frequently as the days went by, and Riley repeated them in different ways, showing how much the silence was affecting her. One Saturday, Haley took both children to a nearby park to give them fresh air and space to play. They stayed for several hours. When they returned home, Haley told me that Riley had quietly wondered if her card had gotten lost in the mail. Haley had hugged her and said it was okay, but the sadness in Riley's eyes stayed with both of us for the rest of the day. Caleb had stayed unusually close to Haley the entire time at the park, not running off to play with other children the way he normally would. Haley repeated the story to me several times that evening, emphasizing how the children's behavior was changing. We discussed the situation that night after the children were asleep. Haley sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. The Facebook posts and the complete silence about the Valentine card are working together. She said, "The children are starting to feel invisible. It is beginning to affect how they see their own worth." I nodded, recognizing the same signs. We agreed that the exclusion was no longer just online or occasional. It was reaching the children in a deeper way that was slowly hurting their confidence. Haley repeated this observation multiple times, describing different small moments she had noticed during the week. To help them cope, Haley suggested we create more positive moments they could control. We started a new evening routine of family reading time. Caleb chose the books while Riley drew illustrations to go along with the stories. The children smiled more during these sessions and seemed to relax. But the quiet sadness still appeared in small moments, such as when Riley saw a television commercial featuring grandparents and quickly changed the channel. Haley and I kept reinforcing the new routine every evening, repeating the same caring activities to build their confidence. Shannon continued posting regularly. Another album appeared, showing the other grandkids helping Deborah bake cookies at the ranch-style house. The grandparents were front and center, praising the children in the video clips. The caption read, "These grandkids are learning family traditions from the best teachers." Once again, our side of the family was missing entirely. The comments poured in with the same enthusiasm as before. Shannon replied to many of them, repeating how much the grandparents enjoyed these moments. I kept a simple list on my computer, noting the dates and wording of each new post. Not for confrontation, but to see the pattern clearly. Haley supported the idea and reminded me that our main responsibility was making sure Caleb and Riley felt valued at home, no matter what appeared online. She repeated this several times during our conversations, emphasizing the importance of daily reassurance. Haley continued to talk about this point over the following days, making sure we stayed focused on the children. The weeks continued with more of the same content from Shannon. Each post served as another reminder of the line that had been drawn. Riley eventually stopped mentioning the Valentine card altogether. She poured her energy into school art projects instead. Caleb joined a new club at school and came home talking about his friends there rather than family matters. The changes in the children continued gradually, and Haley and I kept observing them carefully, repeating our efforts to provide extra support and love at home. Haley and I stayed consistent with our approach. We made sure the children knew their value came from our daily love and attention, not from what was shown on a screen or received in the mail. The gaslighting through Facebook had become the new normal on the other side, but we refused to let it define our home or our children's sense of belonging. We focused on building their confidence through small, repeated acts of care and attention every single day. Haley and I discussed this strategy many times, repeating our commitment to protecting the children from the ongoing exclusion. Mid-January brought an unexpected envelope. It arrived in our mailbox with Deborah's neat handwriting on the front. Inside was a single card, inviting only Caleb and Riley to a weekend gathering at Brandon's ranch-style house. The message was short and direct. Grandparents would love to spend quality time with the grandkids who enjoy family traditions. Saturday at noon. We hope to see Caleb and Riley there. No mention of Haley or me. No apology for the holidays. No acknowledgement of the messages that had filled the group chat weeks earlier. Just an invitation that carefully excluded the parents. I read the card twice at the kitchen table. Haley stood beside me, arms crossed, scanning the words. She shook her head slowly. They are trying to separate the kids from us, as if that would fix anything. We decided not to respond immediately. Instead, we talked about how to explain it to Caleb and Riley without causing more confusion. Haley suggested we wait a day or two before deciding what to say to the children. The next afternoon, the phone rang. Brandon's name appeared on the screen. I answered on speaker so Haley could hear. His voice came through loud and frustrated from the start. "Evan, this silence is making everyone miserable. Mom and Dad are hurt that you won't even let the kids come over. You're the one turning a small disagreement into a full family problem. Everyone is walking on eggshells because of your decision. The cousins keep asking why Caleb and Riley are not around anymore. You are making the whole family sad for no reason." He continued without pausing for breath. "Shannon and I have been trying to keep things normal for the kids on our side. We include the grandparents in everything. But you just cut everyone off and expect us to accept it. This is selfish. Think about how Mom and Dad feel. They only wanted to celebrate the grandkids who are doing well. Now the entire family is suffering because you refuse to be reasonable." Brandon repeated the same point several times, emphasizing how much sadness I was causing and how the grandparents kept mentioning the missing grandchildren. He went over the idea that I was the source of the family's unhappiness, again and again using different words to make the blame clearer. Haley listened carefully, her expression calm. When Brandon finally stopped to breathe, she spoke up clearly. "Brandon, this is Haley. We are focusing on what is best for our children right now. The invitation mentioned only Caleb and Riley. That tells us everything we need to know." Her tone stayed even the same professional voice she used at the hospital when dealing with difficult situations. She repeated her point calmly, reminding him that our priority was protecting our own family. Brandon scoffed. "See, this is exactly what I mean. You two are teaming up against the family. Mom and Dad are older now. They deserve to see all their grandkids without this drama. You are the ones creating the division, Evan. Fix it before it gets worse." He continued talking for several more minutes, repeating the same accusations and urging me to change my mind for the sake of the grandparents and the cousins. He kept coming back to the same idea that I was making everyone sad and that the family could not move forward because of my stubbornness. I kept my reply short. "We heard you, Brandon." Then I ended the call. Haley set the phone down and turned to me. "He is shifting all the blame so he does not have to address the real issue. Do not let it pull you in. We need to stay steady for Caleb and Riley." She repeated this advice several times, emphasizing the importance of keeping calm and not engaging in endless arguments. Haley continued talking about how we should focus our energy on the children instead of responding to every accusation. We sat with the kids after school that day. Haley suggested a simple family game night to keep the mood light. Caleb won the first round and laughed for the first time in days. Riley cheered when she beat her brother in the next game. Watching them enjoy the evening without pressure reminded us why we were holding our ground. Haley and I repeated the same positive family activities with the children over the next few days, making sure they felt loved and secure at home. Another envelope arrived 2 days later. This one was from Stephen and Deborah together. It repeated the invitation for the weekend at Brandon's house and added a line about how the grandparents missed seeing the younger grandkids. Still no apology. Still no explanation for the holiday exclusion. Haley read it and placed it on the counter. "They are testing whether we will send the kids alone. We will not." She repeated this observation, stressing that the invitations were designed to create division between parents and children. We chose not to reply to the second card either. Instead, Haley helped the kids with their school projects in the evenings. She encouraged Caleb to join the after-school robotics club and drove Riley to her art class. The routines kept the children busy and gave them positive experiences outside the family tension. Haley and I continued these daily activities, repeating the same caring routines to strengthen the children's confidence. Brandon called once more mid-week. This time he sounded more tired than angry. "Look, Evan, everyone is asking about you guys. The grandparents keep mentioning how quiet the house feels without the little ones. You are the reason for that quiet. Take responsibility and let the kids come over. It is not fair to punish them for your pride." He repeated the same guilt-inducing statements, going over how the family was suffering and how the grandparents were sad because of my choices. He kept emphasizing the same points for several minutes. Haley was in the room again. She spoke up after I stayed silent. "Brandon, we are not punishing anyone. We are protecting our family's peace. The invitations make it clear what kind of gathering it would be. We are choosing to spend our weekends differently." Her words were firm, but never raised in volume. She repeated the core idea that our focus remained on the children's well-being. Brandon muttered something about stubbornness before hanging up. Haley turned to me afterward. "He is using guilt because direct honesty is harder. Keep your focus on Caleb and Riley. They need to see us handling this with strength, not anger. She continued giving the same advice over the following days, repeating how important it was for us to remain calm and protect the children from the constant pressure. We continued our days with intention. Family dinners became longer, filled with questions about school and dreams for the future. Haley read bedtime stories with extra enthusiasm. I helped with homework and played basketball in the driveway with Caleb. The kids started smiling more freely at home. Haley and I kept reinforcing these positive moments, repeating the same caring routines every evening. The invitations stopped after the second one, but the pattern of blame continued through occasional texts from Brandon. Each message repeated the same idea that I was the source of the family's sadness. Haley reminded me every time not to engage deeply. Short answers, if necessary. Our priority is right here. She repeated this guidance multiple times, making sure I stayed focused on what truly mattered. By the end of January, the weekend gathering at Brandon's house had come and gone. We heard nothing directly about it. The silence from that side felt heavier than any argument. Haley and I used the time to strengthen our own routines. We planned a small trip to a local museum with the kids for the following weekend. Caleb talked about the robots he wanted to see. Riley packed her sketchbook without being asked. We continued building these new experiences, repeating the same positive family activities to create happy memories that belonged only to us. The invitations had made one thing clear. The family on the other side wanted contact on their terms only. Haley and I agreed that our terms would put the children first, always. We kept moving forward one steady day at a time, repeating our commitment to protecting Caleb and Riley from the ongoing pressure and exclusion. Spring arrived with tax season. I decided it was time to understand the bigger picture. Haley's younger brother, Alex Carter, worked as a family law attorney in the Dallas area. I asked him if he could review some public property records for me. Alex agreed without hesitation and said he would pull whatever was available through standard channels. A few days later, he called me back with the results. We met at a quiet coffee shop near his office. Alex slid a thin folder across the table. The family cabin in the Texas Hill Country is listed at $350,000, he said. The deed shows a recent transfer. The new owners are listed as Brandon Mitchell and Shannon Mitchell. Your parents' names have been removed completely. It happened quietly at the end of last year. I stared at the documents. The cabin had been in the family for decades. Stephen and Deborah had always talked about it as a place for everyone. Now the paperwork made it clear that only my brother and sister would control it going forward. No mention of Haley, me, or our children. Alex pointed out the dates. The transfer was finalized just weeks after Christmas. Everything looked legal on paper. No forgery, no hidden clauses that broke the law. Simply a choice my parents had made and recorded properly. Alex leaned back in his chair. They did not have to notify you. It is their property until they pass it on. But the timing lines up with the holiday tension. You should keep gathering anything else that might show a pattern. I thanked him and drove home. Haley was waiting in the kitchen when I walked in. I showed her the folder. She read through the pages slowly, her nurse's calm, never leaving her face. $350,000 moved to only one side of the family, she said. That is not an accident. It matches everything else we have seen. She did not cry or raise her voice. She simply closed the folder and suggested we keep the information private for now. That evening, I added the deed details to my growing file. I organized everything with clear dates and descriptions. The holiday gifts, the group messages, the Facebook albums, the unanswered Valentine card, the invitations that excluded us, and now the cabin transfer. Each piece fit together without emotion, just facts. Haley sat with me at the table after the kids were asleep. We do not need to confront anyone yet, she said. Let the evidence speak when the time comes. Right now, our focus stays on Caleb and Riley. They need stability, not more family noise. Her advice was practical, the same steady guidance she gave patients who faced difficult diagnoses. I continued collecting small pieces over the following weeks. I saved screenshots of every public post that mentioned the grandparents with the other grandchildren. I noted the dates Brandon and Shannon had visited the cabin, based on what they shared online. Nothing dramatic, just quiet documentation. One weekend, Alex stopped by our house for a quick visit. He brought fresh copies of the property records and explained a few more details about how inheritance works in Texas. If your parents keep transferring assets this way, the pattern will be hard to ignore later, he said. But you are doing the right thing by staying calm and organized. Haley thanked her brother for his help and made sure the kids did not overhear the conversation. I kept my responses to the family group minimal. When occasional messages arrived, asking why we had gone quiet, I replied with short, neutral answers. Haley supported the idea. She reminded me that our job was to make sure Caleb and Riley felt valued at home, no matter what appeared online. The discovery of the cabin did not change our daily life. We still took Caleb to his robotics club and Riley to her art classes. We still ate dinner together and talked about school projects. The difference was the quiet knowledge in the back of my mind. The family assets were shifting away from us. That knowledge made me more determined to build something solid for our own kids. Haley and I discussed the situation only when the children were not around. She would say things like, "We cannot control what they do with their property, but we can control how we raise our family." Her words helped me stay focused. We started a small savings plan for the kids' future activities, something separate from any family expectations. Alex checked in once more by text to confirm there were no other public filings at the moment. I thanked him again and added his note to the file. The folder grew thicker, but my outward actions stayed the same. Work continued. Family routines continued. The evidence waited quietly in the background. By late spring, the pattern felt undeniable. The cabin transfer was not an isolated decision. It was part of a larger shift. I did not call my parents or confront Brandon and Shannon. I simply kept recording what I saw and heard. Haley remained my steady partner in every conversation. She never pushed for revenge or loud arguments. She only asked that we keep the children's well-being at the center of every choice. The Texas Hill Country cabin now belonged officially to my brother and sister. $350,000 of family history had moved to one side. I closed the folder one evening and placed it on the shelf. The information was there if we ever needed it. For now, our days went on as usual, calm on the surface, while the groundwork continued underneath. October brought cooler weather and another message. An email arrived from Deborah with the subject line, "Family Healing. Thanksgiving at Brandon's." The body was written in her usual careful tone. She described how the year had been difficult and how much she and Stephen wanted everyone together again. The invitation was for Thanksgiving dinner at Brandon's ranch-style house. She listed the time and asked that we bring a side dish if we could. The message ended with the words, "Let's put the past behind us and focus on what matters, family unity." There was no apology for the Christmas gifts, no mention of the unanswered Valentine card, and no reference to the cabin transfer. Just the hope that we would attend. I read the email twice before showing it to Haley. She scanned the lines and sighed softly. They are calling it healing, but they still have not addressed the real problems. We discussed it over dinner after the kids had finished eating. Haley suggested we reply politely, but clearly. I sat down that evening and typed a short response. "Thank you for the invitation. We will not be able to make it this year. We hope you have a peaceful holiday." I hit send without adding any explanation or accusation. The reaction came faster than I expected. Within an hour, Brandon sent a group text. "Really, Evan? Mom is trying to bring everyone together, and you shut it down with one line." Shannon followed right after with her own message. "This is hurting the grandparents more than you realize. They talk about the grandkids every day. Your refusal is making them sad." That weekend, the video call started. First, Deborah called on Saturday afternoon. She appeared on the screen with Stephen beside her. "Evan, we received your reply," she said. "We were hoping for a different answer. The family needs to heal. The cousins miss playing together. Please reconsider for the children's sake." Stephen nodded along, but stayed mostly quiet. When I repeated that we had other plans, Deborah's voice grew softer, but more insistent. "We only want what is best for everyone. Holding on to old hurts does not help anyone." The next day, Shannon initiated a video call with Haley. I sat next to my wife as Shannon's face filled the screen. "Haley, you are the reasonable one. Talk to Evan. Mom and Dad are getting older. They deserve to see all their grandkids at the table. This separation is breaking their hearts." Haley listened calmly and replied, "We are making choices that protect our own family right now. We wish you a good Thanksgiving." Shannon pressed further, listing all the ways the grandparents had helped in the past. Haley stayed polite but firm, ending the call without promising anything. Caleb noticed the increased phone activity. One evening after school, he walked into the kitchen while I was checking messages. "Dad, why don't we go see Grandpa and Grandma anymore?" he asked. The question came out of nowhere. I set the phone down and knelt to his level. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements. We are spending more time together as our own family right now. Caleb frowned, but did not push. Later that night, I heard him ask Haley the same thing while she was helping with homework. "Mom, are Grandpa and Grandma mad at us?" Haley pulled him close and answered gently, "Sweetheart, they love you. We are just doing things differently this year." The video calls continued into the following week. Brandon joined one session with Deborah and Stephen. "Evan, you are the only one keeping this going," he said on screen. "Everyone else is ready to move forward. The kids on our side keep asking why their cousins are missing. You are the reason for that confusion." I listened without raising my voice. When he finished, I simply said, "We have made our decision for this holiday." Brandon shook his head and ended the call abruptly. Haley and I talked privately after each call. She reminded me, "They are using the kids as leverage. Do not let guilt change what we know is right." Her support kept me steady. We focused our energy on planning our own quiet Thanksgiving at home. Haley suggested we cook a small turkey and let the kids help with the sides. Caleb got excited about making mashed potatoes. Riley wanted to decorate the table with drawings. The emails and messages kept coming. Deborah sent a follow-up note with recipes she thought the kids would like. Shannon added another group text saying the grandparents were counting on seeing everyone. Each attempt carried the same message. Come back, forget the past, join the table. I replied to none of them after the first polite refusal. Caleb asked again a few days before Thanksgiving. This time, he was more direct. If we don't go, does that mean we won't see them at Christmas either? The question showed how much the situation was weighing on him. Haley sat with him and explained in simple terms that we were choosing peace for our home. She assured him that his feelings mattered and that we would create new memories together. Thanksgiving morning arrived. We turned off the group notifications and spent the day in our own house. The kids helped set the table. We ate slowly, talking about school and favorite movies. Caleb laughed when Riley spilled cranberry sauce. For a few hours, the outside pressure faded. Haley and I exchanged a quiet look across the table. The decision to stay away had been hard, but seeing the children relaxed made it feel right. The attempts to pull us back did not stop with the holiday. A new video call came the day after from Deborah. She looked tired on screen. "We missed you yesterday." The table felt empty without Caleb and Riley. I thanked her for thinking of us and repeated that we were doing what felt best for our family. She sighed, but did not argue further that time. By the end of the weekend, the messages slowed. The family on the other side had celebrated without us. We had celebrated in our own way. Caleb still asked occasional questions, but the frequency decreased as we filled the days with our own activities. Haley continued to guide me with the same calm advice. Stay focused. Protect the children. Do not engage in every battle. The invitation for healing had not healed anything. It had only highlighted the distance that continued to grow. We kept moving forward one day at a time, building the kind of family life we wanted for Caleb and Riley. December arrived with shorter days. A thick, cream-colored envelope appeared in our mailbox one afternoon. Deborah's handwriting was on the front, addressed to our whole family. Inside was a Christmas card, with a printed photo of Stephen and Deborah standing in front of a decorated tree. The handwritten note said, "Let's reconnect this season. The door is always open for all of you. We miss having everyone together." No mention of the previous year's events. No apology. Just the gentle pressure wrapped in holiday wishes. The card included a separate slip with the date for a family gathering at Brandon's ranch-style house on Christmas Eve. I placed the card on the kitchen counter where Haley would see it when she got home from her shift. She read it while still wearing her scrubs. "They are using the holidays again," she said quietly. "Same pattern. Different year." We left the card there for the evening and did not discuss it in front of the kids. The next morning, Shannon posted on Facebook. The post was titled, "Family Means Forgiveness," with a large graphic of intertwined hands and a Bible verse about love and reconciliation. She had tagged every family member, including Haley and me. The caption read, "This Christmas, let's choose forgiveness over pride. Grandparents deserve peace, and the grandkids deserve to be together. Open your hearts and come home." The post already had dozens of likes and comments from relatives saying amen. "And well," said Shannon. A few people tagged their own families, encouraging attendance. I scrolled through the comments without liking or replying. Haley looked at the post later that evening. She noticed how carefully the message avoided any responsibility. "It sounds nice on the surface," she said, "but it puts all the blame on the person who set boundaries." She suggested we keep our response minimal if we chose to reply at all. I decided I would reply only if the pressure continued to build. For now, I watched the post gain more traction. Relatives who had stayed quiet all year suddenly commented with heart emojis and stories about the importance of family during the holidays. Shannon replied to almost every comment, thanking them and adding lines like, "We just want everyone at the table this year." Caleb saw the card on the counter a few days later. He picked it up and asked, "Is this from Grandpa and Grandma?" I nodded. He studied the photo for a moment before putting it back down. Riley noticed the card too and traced the gold lettering with her finger. Neither child pressed for details, yet their curiosity was clear. Haley and I talked late one night, after the kids were asleep. She reminded me, "We do not owe them a public performance of forgiveness. If you feel the need to respond, keep it short and private." Her advice helped me stay grounded. I drafted a brief message in my notes, but did not send anything yet. Shannon followed up her Facebook post with a story update, showing the preparations at Brandon's house. She posted photos of the tree being decorated and the table being set for a large group. The grandparents appeared in several shots, smiling beside the other grandchildren. The caption on one story read, "Getting ready for a full house this Christmas. Praying for reconciliation." More tags followed. The pressure felt coordinated. I continued monitoring without engaging. Haley checked the post once and shook her head. They are framing it as a choice between love and stubbornness. That is not fair to the kids who are caught in the middle. We focused instead on our own preparations. Haley helped Riley make paper snowflakes for our windows. I took Caleb to pick out a small tree for our living room. The activities kept the season light inside our house. Another card arrived mid-month, this one from Stephen and Deborah together. It repeated the reconnect message and included a handwritten note asking if the children would like to help decorate at Brandon's house. Still no direct address of past issues. I set it aside with the first card. Shannon's Facebook post kept receiving new comments as December moved forward. Relatives from out of town added messages about how much they missed seeing the whole family. Shannon replied publicly, "We are hoping Evan and Haley will join us too." The grandparents would be overjoyed. The public nature of the tagging made the exclusion feel wider. I weighed whether to respond. Haley supported whatever I chose, but emphasized keeping any reply calm and factual. "If you speak up, make sure it is clear and not emotional," she said. I saved a draft in my phone, but left it unsent for the time being. The kids continued their school activities. Caleb practiced for a winter concert at school. Riley worked on a holiday art project. Both seemed content with our smaller celebrations at home. Haley and I made sure their days stayed filled with positive moments rather than questions about the other side of the family. By the third week of December, the Facebook post had hundreds of interactions. Shannon added a new update showing the menu for Christmas Eve and asking tagged family members to confirm attendance. The pressure to reply grew, but I still held back. Haley noticed my silence on the matter and said simply, "You will know when the right moment comes. Until then, we keep our focus here." The Christmas card and the public post had set the stage for another attempt at reconnection. The message was consistent: meet and forgive, join the gathering. I had not yet decided on my response, but the evidence continued to build in the background. Our home remained steady. The children continued their routines, and the decision about how to handle the invitation waited for the right time. The day before Christmas Eve felt heavier than usual. I opened Facebook one last time and saw Shannon's post still pinned at the top of my feed. The family means forgiveness message had gained even more comments overnight. Relatives urged everyone to come together. I scrolled to the comment section and typed a reply. It was not long, but it included a link to a private Google Drive folder I had prepared. The folder contained a simple timeline with dates and screenshots. The original group text from last Christmas. The Facebook albums that excluded our children. The unanswered Valentine card. The invitations addressed only to Caleb and Riley. And the property records, showing the $350,000 cabin transferred solely to Brandon and Shannon. My comment read, "Before we talk about forgiveness, here is the full picture of what actually happened this year. These are facts, not opinions. The door works both ways." I attached the link and posted it under Shannon's original post. Then I logged out and set my phone aside. The reaction started within minutes. Shannon deleted the comment almost immediately, but screenshots had already spread in other family chats. Brandon sent a furious text. "Take that down right now. You are embarrassing the entire family." Deborah called next, her voice shaking. "Evan, why would you do this publicly?" We were trying to move forward. I let the calls go to voicemail. Shannon lost her composure completely in a follow-up post. She wrote, "Some people choose to attack their own blood instead of forgiving. This is not love." She deleted it less than 10 minutes later when more relatives began asking questions about the timeline link. Comments asking for clarification multiplied. One aunt asked why the cabin was only in Brandon and Shannon's names. Another cousin wanted to know about the Valentine card. Shannon blocked several people and made her profile private within the hour. Brandon called again, this time from a different number. His voice was loud from the start. "You think you are smart, posting that garbage? You just ruined Christmas for everyone." Mom is crying. Dad is furious. "If you do not remove everything and apologize, we will make sure the whole extended family knows what kind of person you really are." He threatened to contact my workplace and tell them I was causing family drama. He mentioned speaking to a lawyer about defamation. I listened without interrupting. When he paused, I said only, "The documents are public records. Everything else is from our own messages." He hung up mid-sentence. Shannon tried calling Haley directly. Haley answered on speaker so I could hear. Shannon's voice cracked with anger. "How can you let him do this? You are a mother. You should be protecting the family, not tearing it apart. Those screenshots make us look terrible. Delete them now." Haley replied evenly. "We did not create the situation, Shannon. The evidence speaks for itself." Shannon shouted that Haley was just as responsible, and then hung up. She sent several long voice messages afterward, alternating between tears and accusations. The family group chat exploded. Relatives who had liked Shannon's post now asked direct questions. "Is the cabin really only in your names? Why were the younger grandkids left out of everything?" Brandon tried to shut it down by posting, "This is private family business. Stop commenting." His message only fueled more curiosity. Deborah sent a separate email begging me to think about the children and remove the link. I did not reply to any of it. Within 2 hours, Shannon had deleted the entire original post and all related comments. The activity did not stop. Screenshots of my timeline circulated in smaller cousin groups. A few relatives reached out privately to ask if the documents were real. I confirmed they were and left it at that. No one from the immediate family apologized. Instead, the focus shifted to damage control. Brandon called a third time that evening. This call was shorter and colder. "You have crossed a line. We will not forget this. Do not expect any more invitations or contact. You made your choice." His threat sounded final. Shannon sent one last message through a different account. "I hope you are happy, destroying what is left of this family. Merry Christmas." Then she blocked me. Haley and I sat together after the kids were in bed. She reviewed the chaos on her own phone. "They are panicking because the truth is out in the open," she said. "We did not attack anyone. We simply showed what happened." Her calm helped steady the evening. We turned off all notifications and focused on wrapping the few small gifts we had bought for Caleb and Riley. The expose had landed exactly as the pressure peaked. The public post about forgiveness now carried a very different story. Family members on the other side scrambled to contain the fallout. Brandon's threats and Shannon's emotional outburst revealed how little they had prepared for accountability. The day before Christmas Eve ended with silence from their side and a strange sense of clarity on ours. When the new year started, everything felt lighter. I blocked every number and account connected to my parents, Brandon and Shannon. No more group chats, no more surprise calls, no more holiday cards. The silence that followed was complete and final. Haley supported the decision without hesitation. We sat together that first week of January and went through our phones, removing every digital tie. Caleb and Riley noticed the change in routine, but asked fewer questions as the weeks passed. They seemed to sense the peace that had settled over our house. We celebrated Christmas on our own terms the week before. The four of us decorated a small tree in the living room. Riley hung the paper snowflakes she had made at school. Caleb helped string lights along the mantel. Haley cooked a simple meal of roast chicken and vegetables, while Christmas music played softly in the background. We opened gifts after dinner, practical things the kids had asked for, and a few new books we chose together. There were no large gatherings, no tension, no careful wording to avoid hurt feelings. Just laughter when Riley's new puzzle spilled across the floor and Caleb tried to race his toy car under the couch. The evening ended with all of us reading a story together on the couch. It was quiet, warm, and entirely ours. The consequences on the other side became clear over the following months through occasional updates from distant relatives who still spoke to me privately. Stephen and Deborah could no longer manage the ranch-style house alone. By spring, they had sold it and moved into an assisted living facility on the outskirts of Dallas. They went without any regular visits from their older grandchildren. The staff noted that the couple kept to themselves most days, rarely mentioning family gatherings. The move happened quietly, with no one from our side involved in the process. Brandon's real estate development business took a noticeable hit. Word of the family scandal spread through Dallas professional circles. Several large contracts he had been negotiating fell through after clients mentioned concerns about his personal conduct. One developer who had worked with him for years chose a different partner, citing unresolved family issues that affect reliability. Brandon's income dropped sharply. He began selling off smaller properties to cover expenses. The ranch-style house stayed on the market longer than expected. Shannon's social media presence suffered even more directly. Her follower count dropped by several thousand in the weeks after the timeline became public. Brands that had sponsored her lifestyle content quietly ended their partnerships. Her income from influencing decreased to almost nothing by summer. She tried posting about forgiveness again, but the comments were mixed, and many questioned the sincerity. She eventually made her accounts private and stopped sharing family updates altogether. Their children faced adjustments too. The older cousins who once received extra attention and gifts began struggling with the sudden change in family support. One needed tutoring for falling grades after the emotional disruption at home. Another missed out on a sports camp that had been promised earlier in the year. The consequences were not dramatic headlines, but steady, everyday difficulties that came from the loss of the larger family network. Meanwhile, Haley and I focused on building new traditions for Caleb and Riley. We started a monthly family adventure day where we explored parks around the Dallas suburbs or visited free museums. Caleb joined a local robotics team and came home excited to show us his latest project. Riley enrolled in an after-school art workshop and filled our walls with her colorful drawings. We planted a small vegetable garden in the backyard together. The kids watered the plants every evening and argued good-naturedly about whose turn it was to pull weeds. These small routines replaced the old holiday expectations with something steady and joyful. Haley continued working her nursing shifts while I managed my consulting projects from home more often. We made sure dinner time remained a place for conversation rather than screens. Caleb talked about his friends at school. Riley shared stories from art class. The children grew more confident, laughing freely and asking questions without hesitation. The weight that had pressed on them the previous year slowly lifted. By the following Christmas, we had established a clear rhythm. We hosted a small gathering with Haley's brother Alex and his family. The kids played games in the living room, while the adults cooked together in the kitchen. No one mentioned the past. The evening felt natural and warm. Caleb and Riley went to bed talking about their favorite moments of the day. Haley and I sat on the couch afterward reflecting on how far we had come. Looking back, the decision to walk away had not been easy, but it proved necessary. The family that should have provided love and fairness had chosen favoritism and control instead. By setting firm boundaries and refusing to participate in the cycle, we protected our children from repeated exclusion and emotional harm. The evidence we gathered and the calm way we handled each step allowed us to move forward without regret. The clearest lesson from the entire year stayed with me. Protecting your children sometimes means walking away from the family that should have loved them most. It is not about revenge or anger. It is about choosing peace, stability, and genuine love over obligation and pretense. Our home became the place where Caleb and Riley learned their worth did not depend on anyone else's approval. That foundation mattered more than any holiday gathering or inherited property ever could. We continue building our life day by day. The blocks remain in place. The silence from the other side has become permanent. And in that silence, our family has found room to grow stronger, happier, and truly together.